Hi there, folks. It's WP-Tonic, episode 103. It's our Saturday live roundtable show, which we record on Blab at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we've got one main topic, which is WordPress and online marketing that works in 2016. And we're also going to have some great WordPress news stories to start the show off. I've got a great panel this Saturday, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So, Sally, would you like to introduce yourself?
Certainly. My name is Sallie Goetsch. My business is WP Fangirl. I build websites for small businesses and nonprofits, and I'm the organizer of the East Bay WordPress meetup in Oakland, California.
That's great. Kim, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I'm Kim Shivler. I teach people how to build WordPress websites and online courses at howtobuildononlinecourse.com. For those of you that know me, you know my cats get involved a lot. My sidekick is not here today because she doesn't feel well, but I am going to show you my new thing for when you're here in the class with me. When you're a good student, you get the happy paw. When you're a bad student, you get the not happy paw.
I've got to have one. Folks, if you go to the WP-Tonic website to the episode page, you'll be able to watch the video. It's hilarious. John, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Sure thing. My name's John Locke. My business is Lockdown Design, and I help business owners get more out of their websites. And I'm a cat lover, but I don't have any cats anymore.
No claw either. I'm Jonathan Denwood, the co-host with John. And before we get off, please go to iTunes and subscribe to the show and give us a rating, folks. It really helps. So please do that. Join the tribe, as they say. So let's go into some of the news stories that I put up. And let's start off with a good interview on the Matt Report, which is another great WordPress podcast. And he was interviewing, and I'm going to butcher this guy's name. Is it Daan Tol? He's Dutch. How would you pronounce it?
It should be Tol if it's Dutch.
Tol. So is it Daan Tol?
Yeah.
Daan
is probably how you would say it.
Daan Tol.
Yes. That flat A is pretty much an English language thing.
Yes. Shame I can't speak it, isn't it? He's the new owner of WP-Lift, a very popular WordPress-focused site, and he paid $205,000 for the website. So let's start off with Sally. What did you think of that interview and the new owner paying $205,000?
Well, you know, the thing that it actually sent me back to, and you know, is the reason that the old owner was selling it. That, you know, in order to build up all of this value in the blog, all of the content marketing value, and you know, advertising and affiliate links and whatever else it might bring you, you know, required continuous daily dedication, basically, you know, and what happened was that, you know, the previous owner just got exhausted and was having, you know, not enough time for his family and the other part of his business. And that's why he had to sell it. And, you know, he realized a decent amount of money from the work that he'd put in. Although I suspect if you actually added up all of the hours, you know, the net hourly rate versus the sale price would not come out to be all that impressive. So I'm hoping that it will, you know, that the fact that it's already established will help the new owner to be able to, you know, realize ongoing value and you know, get his money back.
All right. What do you think, Kim?
I so agree with Sally that you know, I hope because it was established, it really helps him take it to the next level. I think for me, what it just stands out to show is just the truth that while you absolutely can create online businesses, you can absolutely make money with affiliates, etc. This is not a do it in 5 minutes and get rich kind of thing that people unfortunately are still trying to sell. You know, you pop up a quick niche site, and in 5 hours, all of a sudden you're making all this money coming in, and it doesn't work that way, right? So I love what Sallie pointed out.
There are no get rich quick schemes here.
No.
Definitely
And so this
content
is a guy who really put in the time and is making money, but still has to see that, wow, that's a lot of work for the money I'm making.
Seniors, what do you think, John? By the way, John, did you have time to listen to the interview at all?
I actually listened to the interview.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
And I didn't even realize you threw this in the links. But the Matt Report is one of the podcasts I actually do listen to. And what I got out of it is two things. The first thing is if you can build a brand that has a lot of name recognition and has built up a lot of value, it takes a lot of time, but it produces a lot of value. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people quit before they get to that point because of how hard it is and how much work and dedication it actually takes to get to that level. To sell an online, site of any type for that sort of money, it requires years of hard work. And I can understand why the original owner was burnt. The second thing that I got out of that interview is something that Matt Madero said, is that a lot of people think $200,000 is a lot of money.
It isn't.
And it's not. It is if you're like struggling to just kind of make ends meet, or you're struggling to get to $200,000 a year. It's a lot. It might feel like a lot of money, but in the bigger scheme of things, it's not, because we really, I think as a community, have to like shift our mentality of not always aiming low, and aim high. And if you get like halfway there, then you're winning. But if you just settle for what you can get, then you're going to get maybe halfway there.
Yeah, I thought they're exactly the great points that I noticed in the interview, John. Basically, Dan, hope I'm not butchering your first name. I apologise if I am. He pointed out he'd been looking for a property, a website property for over 15 months, 15 to 18 months. And he'd been in a lot of discussions, and then Lifter came on the market. He would have preferred that he could have bought it through a broker, not had all the publicity, because he says during the interview, folks, that he's been inundated with people asking him for money in some form or another, which I found quite funny. But he had been looking for over 15 months and looked at a lot of rubbish, very similar to some of the things that Sallie and Kim had said. And then Lifter came on, and then they started the negotiation, and he did all his diligence. Oh, God, I'm terrible this morning. I apologise, folks. But I think the other factor is that people just don't realise the amount of work, especially if you're mostly doing it yourself. He'd been at it for quite a while. How long had he been running it before he sold it?
2010, he said he started. So
wow.
that was a long time. And yeah, I mean, when Matt Mullenweg bought WP Tavern, he bought it along with the blogger. The chief writer, and there are now some other writers. So Matt isn't having to create it. He just he just invested in it.
What do you think the multiple was? Is it? I don't know what it is now in America. Do you think he paid I think he said he paid 4 to 5 times net profit on it, or is it just based on the gross? What do you think? I think he did say it during the interview, but I might be wrong there.
I don't remember.
But I think the main thing is, I think he's got a good platform to start off with, and I think I do read it. I do go to the site, and it's it says it's got 30,000 subscribers. So I don't think he really overpaid for it. What do you think, John?
No, I don't think he overpaid for it. It's hard to get 30,000 subscribers. Focused on one niche topic, which is, WordPress. And if you can acquire something that's like already built up and then just take the handoff and just keep running with it, then by all means. I mean, it's a proven revenue generator through, ads and affiliates, and that's usually how you monetize a blog. But you got to have just endless amounts of content, and you got to keep up that production and be dedicated to it. And you can look at like the successful blogs in our ecosystem, and they're all like that.
Yeah. So a thing that John pointed out, I put this to Kim, is the other thing I found fascinating was some parts of the WordPress. I can't find another word, community, but they were, seemingly there was a lot of chatter on Twitter. That was a bit, this is crazy. He's spending all this money. He must be mad. And I thought it was quite outrageous and out of order, really. What do you think, Kim?
I agree. I would agree with you. I think it is outrageous and out of order, and it's one of the things. And you guys can tell me if you find this too, because I did not. I came out of a much more traditional tech environment going way back. I was with IBM and like big companies who were used to getting paid what they were worth. And what has kind of amazed me with like things I heard like that, oh, you're overpaying this and that. And what I have found with working with other bloggers is a lot of times it's bloggers who they are working with WordPress, but they're not blogging about WordPress. They're customers I've worked with, maybe not even my customers. I've had a consulting session or we've just even been friends. And they are spinning out blogs using WordPress, making $100,000, $200,000 a year sometimes on absolutely other things. Yet it seems like when we come to the WordPress community that we want to devalue ourselves. And I've never gotten that, but it seems like it's been that way since 2010 when I came to the community.
Yeah, it's definitely a tone. What do you think, Sallie?
I do think it's, there's always going to be a lot of silly chatter about almost everything because people have opinions whether or not they have information. And I'm as guilty of that as anybody. I think that, and this issue has been discussed before about, pricing in WordPress is, that there is some expectation that, because WordPress itself is free, that sort of everything else that goes along with it should be free or cheap. And that's not actually a logical conclusion, but it is a common misconception.
Yeah, it definitely is. But like you say, it's not untypical of Twitter to have those. I don't actually observe them. I don't observe them, so I don't anticipate, and I wouldn't because I would
just look at it, Jonathan. I would just look at it, and I only heard part of the interview, so maybe they disclose more. But as someone who has bought and sold businesses before, I don't look at it as a WordPress here or there or whatever. I look at it as what's the going rate for if I'm making X. What can I plan on selling at my multiplier? Is that 1, 2, 3, 5 times? And depending on the industry I've been buying in or selling in, that's been different. That's really all that tells me on, did the guy spend too much? What's the industry? What were his multipliers? And if they're along the rates of everybody else in the industry, then he didn't pay too much. That's what he should expect to pay.
Straight up.
That's
straight up. The people talking on Twitter, once they've sold a blog for $10,000, $100,000, $200,000, then they can have their input on that. Until then, just bow out.
Yeah, just to finish, and then we go on to another story. I thought but the positive thing was Matt was remarking that when he, which is linked to the next story, when he was at WordCamp US and some of the other WordCamps he's been, he said there's a lot of investors around looking at WordPress businesses because it just got too expensive in Silicon Valley and more the traditional startup markets, and now they're looking at WordPress, and I thought that was really quite encouraging. What did you think, Sallie, about that?
I think that's it's an interesting idea, and it's true. If you want to invest in something and you're just getting started as an investor, you might want to look at a thing where what you put in and what you get out are going to be, probably smaller, although, a lot of the Silicon Valley startups end up, taking in tons of investor money and never making a profit at all. It's a big gamble to have a startup company. But, I think probably buying a blog like this is a little bit like, buying a franchise. We know the people who own the local UPS store, and, it was already making money. It had an established location. It had people there. And that's part of what you're paying for with it, is that you don't have to do that from the beginning effort.
Well, you're cutting the risk down, aren't you?
Right, and that you have overhead, and you have salaries to pay, and you have so that your net profit might not be enormous, but that it's a fairly solid investment.
Yeah, that's great. So I think we'll go on to our next story, which is WordPress US is coming up again in December, and it's time to apply. If you want to speak there, are you gonna? I'm gonna put that to Kim first. Are you thinking of trying to speak there again, Kim?
I'm pulling together what I think might be. Obviously, you don't want to take the same speech on the road forever. That's just old. So I'm doing two things that some people may not know. Yes, I am. I'm pulling back some of my WordCamp stuff because I'm doing more corporate speaking now. But I think for WordCamp US, I'm going to try to pull something together and just see if I get picked for a second year, because you don't know their philosophy. Is their philosophy, we're going to go for all new speakers? And I get that if that's what they want, or, if because I got really good ratings last year and all, will they maybe pick me again? I don't know, but I'll probably throw my hat in the ring. I'd love to do it again. It was a real honor, and I had so much fun getting to meet people last year that I hadn't met before.
So what's your feelings about them doing it again in Philly? You seem to like Philly anyway.
I love Philly personally, but it's not about Philly. It's about when they came up with the concept and they said, we're going to do WordCamp US and make it the national event. They put it out that each city would have 2 years. And I think that the reason for that is, you don't necessarily have one established group. It's a bigger planning than maybe some people are used to with a regular WordCamp planning. So I think it was actually smart negotiation-wise as far as getting the conference centers, et cetera, to say it's going to be 2 years. Because most of the time when I go to, I don't know about you guys, but most of the WordCamps I go to, they're wonderful. I love them. The meeting spaces tend to be a shared meeting space or on a campus, college campus or something. These guys are having to go in and negotiate at a Philadelphia convention center level. And if it goes to Orlando or wherever, they've got to have that many people, over 1,000 people. So I think that from a business sense, doing 2 years at a time is actually smart.
All right, I think we'll go to our first break, folks, and we'll come back and finish off discussing this topic and move forward. Be back in a minute. We're coming back from our break. We're talking about WordPress US coming up in December. It's surprising they're asking for speakers. So, Sallie, what do you think about Philly again? And I understand what Kim said, but it's easy to criticise. I'm not criticising it, but I just wondered if it might be better off moving it. I suppose I'm biased because it's on the East Coast now, and I got kind of spoiled it always been in San Francisco, and I suppose in some ways you're the same. So what's your feelings about it?
Well, you couldn't pay me to go to Philadelphia in December, and that's not going to change. But that's not just Philadelphia. That's any place that's going to be cold. And I once belonged to in my former life as an academic, we had an annual conference that moved to different cities every year. And the 2 years I went, it was in Washington, D.C. and in Chicago. And both times it was extremely cold. Now, I was living in Michigan at the time. I was used to cold. So it wasn't such a big deal. But at this point, for an event where my costs are not being covered, I have to, make decisions about where I'm going to go, and it's probably going to be someplace that's either a very short flight or within driving distance. And I think that there is the issue of they probably don't want to have all the same speakers. At WordCamp Sacramento, they made a point of including a lot of first-time speakers and relatively local people. And I don't know whether I'll have an idea to apply with, but I wouldn't be that surprised. Yes, here's the cat. I wouldn't be that surprised if whether it was a good proposal or not, they chose somebody else who hadn't done it before, and that's seems totally legitimate to me. But I think that they are probably more likely to get a good space if they can commit to it, and it will move somewhere else next year and in a while, and people will basically share the the burden of travel will rest on a group of different people. Every
I just think you do fantastic. I couldn't concentrate at all if I had a tail wagging in front of my face. Well, there we go. John,
well, I'm
just
used to
amazed at your abilities to keep on going. John, so what do you think? Because I understand exactly what Kim said. They probably negotiated a better rate than that, but I was a little bit surprised when they said they were going to they planned to do 2 in a row, not move it around each year. What do you feel?
No, I think that's a good idea because the WordCamp US or something like WordCamp Europe, which is going on right now, it's a bigger event than say the East Bay or the LA like WordCamp, and they're bigger venues. Yeah, it requires bigger venues, like more people on the organizing team, and it makes sense to do it 2 years in a row because otherwise, like every year, you're having to put together like a new organizing team and figure it out. I think if you do it 2 years in a row, you learn from the experience of having done it the year before. And you had the same, mostly the same group of people, and you can book like a venue like easily. If you're switching it around every year, it's a little bit harder because every year it's like that city is doing it for the first time. So I think if you do 2 in, each city and then move it to a new city, I think that's a good idea. And because then you could go like it was on the East Coast, then you could go like West Coast, and then you could go like the middle of the country. And then that way, every 6 years it rotates around and it's easy for people to, from different parts of the country to attend.
Yeah, I suppose, I follow the logic, but it's just, Philly in December. Sorry, folks. I'm with Sallie. I'm not going to go.
I have to tell you, last year wasn't bad. And I'm a Florida girl, remember, guys?
Yeah,
it really wasn't. It wasn't bad this last December.
Yeah, it's just me. I make no defense about
I've been way colder in Las Vegas area in December, let me tell you, Jonathan.
I don't know how to respond to that. I don't know who you're mixing with. Right, no, better not go down that route. On to the next. I think we exhausted. I just thought I'd ask about it. And I think it's going to be another great event, and all the courageous individuals that are going to go there in December, I salute you. Sorry, I'm terrible. On to the next story. why some WordPress plugins leave orphan tables in their database. It sounds like a religious statement, doesn't it, in a way?
People certainly reacted to it quite violently.
Yes.
Yes, it's a surprise. Go on then, Sally. Off you go. What do you reckon about that one?
Well, I think they make a reasonably good explanation for why you might want to leave the data there. For instance, that WP e-commerce people say, that's information that it would be really devastating to people to lose by accident through kind of not paying attention to that little confirming, delete all, etc. But it does seem as if the appropriate solution, as mentioned by one of the commenters, is basically do the uninstall sort of thing where like Gravity Forms does, or where there's sort of an explicit box to check that says yes, I want to get rid of the tables. There are plugins like WordFence that add a bazillion tables to your database full of logs and information that you don't really need, and it's tidier certainly to get rid of those, and not everybody is going to be in a position to go into PHP MyAdmin and drop the tables.
Well, the thing is, I hear contradictory. I don't know enough about this. Really, I've got a spare moment, maybe study a bit more, but it's contradictory anyway, what I've read before. Some people says it does have a performance hit, but like in the article, and some other people, it says it doesn't really matter that much. It doesn't really have a performance hit. What do you think, John?
I think, in some instances, this is a really good idea to leave the orphan data because, again, you might accidentally, delete your plugin and then, I didn't mean to do that. And say if you've got like Gravity Forms or, an e-commerce store and you've got a whole bunch of data, if, you go whoops and it uninstalls everything, you're starting from scratch again, and that could be horrendous. So
it could be like that text that breakup text that you never meant to send.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
There you go. There you are. See, sorry. So I finished you in mid.
Oh no, that's cool.
Keep going, John. Don't listen to me.
Yeah, no, but there are different plugins that can clean up, the orphan data. I mean, if that's what you want to do. So I think it's useful to in some cases to leave that data in, like a blanket statement, should you always clean up orphan data or should you always leave it? Maybe it just depends,
Yeah, I don't know if you can make a hard and fast rule for it. So, what makes sense is to just give people an explicit option so that, they can get rid of it if they want to, and leave it there if they want to. And then, it's not going to, it won't disappear unless you specifically ask it to. I think the performance probably depends on the specific tables and whether they're being queried and how much stuff is in them and so on. So, if it's not a large amount of stuff in there, it's not going to be a huge performance hit. It's just, I dislike clutter on principle, which you'd never know from my office.
All right. What do you think, Kim?
I think this one's a hard one for me because I tend to come at it from a purist standpoint because I was a database administrator a long time ago with big companies and big data. And when you have some things hanging out there, crap can happen that you just don't want to have happen. I would tend to agree with Sally on it to make it very specific to let the people choose to leave it or not. I would personally, and this is one of my probably biggest criticisms of just WordPress and CMSs as a whole, is that I don't think that they really handle databases as well as they could. If you go back looking at how databases can be managed and the limited search functionalities they give us, that is just ridiculous. I really think I would put something into place where if you took a plugin out those tables were still pulled out, but zipped up and given back to the person. Because if you get people who, and it's not the optimal, they're not hiring John and Sally to do their work who know how to clean up behind themselves. But instead, they've put this plugin and they ran it for a while and then they changed it with another plugin. And all of a sudden, you get this tangled mess within the database. It's not even just a performance standpoint. There are too many things that can go wrong when you have tables and things outstanding that aren't necessarily linked to things. And then you just put in one plugin that was done wrong because, again, you're one of those people experimenting because you didn't hire a good developer and it pulls everything down. So personally, I would prefer that they pull their stuff out of the database, even if it's giving it back to the person in a way that they can refresh it or reinstall it, but without just leaving it out there hanging to where you don't know how it's going to be treated.
Yeah, and it also comes to mind, Kim, is that there are some security consequences in having all this kind of past stuff in there, and I haven't heard anything suggest that somebody's really exploited that, but it does come to mind, doesn't it, Kim, that there can be some security consequences, can't there?
It potentially could be. Face it, though, anytime we have data, there's a security consequence. If we're online, folks, there's a security consequence.
Quote of the day.
Yeah.
That's right. I think we'll go on to our main topic now, folks. I just thought John and myself had a chat. John suggested this would be a good main discussion point, and that's online. People have websites built. People invest a lot of time in websites, but the main purpose is to get it in front of eyeballs and have your message in front of people, or you're selling a product or you're doing something. So no audience. It's normally a bit of a waste of time. So online marketing that works in 2016. We're halfway into 2016. Any things that you think don't work are still working? And I'll start off with Kim again. Got any initial thoughts about the subject?
Yes. Well, first of all, the old spammy stuff from 2008 doesn't work anymore, right? We know that. You can't just pop up a page, throw 5 links on it. Google's going to rank you. A bunch of bad, crappy backlinks from your own private network. That's not going to work. I think what still works and what's going to continue to work is consistency and just really being there to serve your audience, not being fake, but being authentic, serving your audience. And I'm going to tell you, for me, the biggest thing that works for me, even though I have an online business, is offline marketing. It's the people I meet at events, at places who are who are recommended to me. That's really where I keep building and building and building. It is not just someone who finds me in a search engine, although that happens, or even on social media. It's that real connections that I make with people from either offline or a referral or a slow build through social media, right? Like we met in a Twitter chat, we started talking, we built, but not this just promotion. It just, I don't see it working.
So what do you think, Sally?
I think there are certainly ways to be successful with online marketing, definitely, and I wouldn't skip it. But most of my business comes from things that I do at least partly offline, like running the meetup. The people I've become connected to there, who then maybe refer me somebody, who then maybe refers me somebody else, and places where I've gone to speak and so on. And some of that happens partly because of online interaction. I was pretty active in the WordPress group on LinkedIn when a few years back, and I actually got a gig for O'Reilly because of that. But if you're talking about, you want to bring massive traffic to your website, the example I have of it is my husband's Not Blowing Smoke campaign. And, he was able to get tens of thousands of visitors pretty much overnight, except that, to get the overnight, effect, when he launched the site, he spent 2 years putting in about 20 hours a day building up a network of people on, Facebook and Instagram and whatnot, so that when he said, when he told those people we've launched this site, they told their people who told other people who, who brought the traffic through. And so it's kind of like taking us back to the story about WP-Lift is, there's no instant gratification here. It's some things that appear to be an overnight success usually aren't. And so, if you launch a new website, but you already have a mailing list with 30,000 people on it, your chance of getting a lot of traffic to that website and making sales from it right away are definitely going to be bigger than if you have a mailing list with, 30 people on it.
Yeah, I think that's great stuff. John, before there was, I'm going to, the Mac report again. He seems to be on a little bit of a row. He interviewed Chris Lemmer a couple of weeks ago, and I listened to the interview. And Chris was discussing, he'd been on holiday for 6 weeks, and he had one person he was consulting saying, "I want that lifestyle. I want to be going on holiday." But Chris said, "Well, it took 6 years of hard work to get into that position online." And he was talking about, the methodical process he took to build up his brand. So I think the two things are kind of linked. Do you think so, John?
So if you're looking to have a lifestyle business or have that mythical, 4-hour work week, you're going to have to put in.
I'm still trying to find it, John.
You're going to have to put in a lot of front load work for years and years to get to that point where you can take time off. Because if one thing is true, is this is a marathon, not a sprint. You can, get attention for a little while, but if the biggest thing, any type of marketing, whether it's online, offline, it all builds to one thing: is your business are you as an individual trustworthy? Are you the person that people think of when they have the specific need that you service? And everything that you do, whether it's content marketing, whether it's going to trade shows, whether it's speaking at events, whether it's advertising in your local market, whether it's sharing things on social media, all those things are little bricks in the wall of building up your brand and building up your authority as someone who knows what they're talking about, and getting people to pick up the phone and call your business and turn to you to solve their problem. And that's really the goal,
Yeah, I totally agree with you, John. But this also now broadening out a little bit about some methodologies that help in that process, especially if you're starting out. Everybody. Obviously, there have been great changes in email marketing. A lot of that has been around what Google has done with Gmail and their promotional folder. But a lot of people in the online marketing still hammer away of the importance of email marketing. So I'll start with that, John. What's your thoughts about email marketing in 2016 and its importance and broadening it out, mate?
Yeah, so email marketing, a really smart guy, wiser guy than myself, Derek Sivers, once said that the only thing that you really own is your website and your email list. If you have a list, you can always market to those people. And the thing about it is those people are opting in to saying, "I want to hear more from you." Whether that's your blog feed or you're just marketing to them, speaking to them, they're getting to know you. The big thing with email marketing is there's a lot of people saying that they build a big list, but the other part of that is, do you ask for people to take an action at certain times, at certain intervals in your list? And can you get people to respond? You can have like a ginormous list of 100,000 people, but if nobody takes action, like when you say like, hey, like I have a product coming out, or well, it's time to buy it, will you buy it? I've given you all this information and all this value. And you'll notice that everybody that like successfully has a list and puts all this time like publishing content, putting out free stuff, putting out videos, podcasts, all that stuff to like build up the people on their list. Every once in a while, they're going to ask for something. Buy this product, buy this book, here's my course coming out, push it out, And the true testament to your list is, your list is one thing, your brand is the other part of it. Can you get people to respond? So absolutely, you need a list, because you can't rely on Google. They might change the rules at any time and you might disappear. Social media, like with Facebook, you've seen them change the rules to where the people that like your page, you have to pay to get people to see the stuff that you actually publish on them. But your email list, you will always own. So. Yeah,
it's great words. I think we'll go for our second break, folks, and we'll be back in a minute talking about online marketing, what works into it, what doesn't work, and what does work in 2016. Back in a minute, folks. We're coming back, folks. We've had a great discussion. We're talking about our main topic on this Saturday. What doesn't and what does work on online marketing in 2016. So we've been talking about email marketing. So what do you think, Kim? Because I think it's extremely hard to build up an effective list. And I've been trying and getting slowly somewhere, but it's not easy. Got any insights on what works and what doesn't work in 2016 around that?
Okay, I would agree with you. I don't think it's easy to build up a quality list, but I would agree with John. I think it's the best thing you can do because, like you said, social media can change the rules. Google can change the rules. When you get a really quality list, and it goes back to, for those of you who have heard me speak at events or teach, I frequently talk about the blog post written in 2008 called 1,000 True Fans. And it was written in 2008, but it's, with as crowded as things are right now, it's even more important. And he was writing for creatives saying that if you can find that 1,000 true fans who buy what you put out, share what you put out, love what you put out, be your brand ambassadors, you can make a nice living. And it's the same thing with building your email list. It's finding those right targeted people that respond to what you have, buy what you have. If it's not right for them, they share it with someone else that buys it. And I'm not saying it's easy to do, but that's where it's worthwhile putting your time into, because you, as John pointed out, you own that list. And those are people that can just keep growing and growing and growing with you and keep buying from you and keep sharing you to help you really build a substantial business. And John pointed out one of the things that for those who are building email lists, and you mentioned it, John, but I wasn't sure if they really got it. If you're building an email list, you need to make sure that as you're sending out those consistent emails, they need to be frequent and consistent, that sometimes you're asking them to do something. Maybe it's not even buy. Maybe it's download something for free. Maybe it's take next steps. But you get them in that process of saying, yes, I will. Mm-hmm. And then that's where you get them into that process of, I will download this. I will buy this. I will share this with a friend who will buy this. And that's how you actually build it into a something that can become part of your business that is income producing.
Yeah, it's great stuff. What do you think, Sallie?
Well, it's interesting that it seems like every other week or at least once a year you hear that, email is dead thing. But, pretty much equally as often somebody does a study on effectiveness of marketing, and email marketing still comes out at the top. There is a lot of competition. I mean, I'm subscribed to a lot of lists, but I find myself unsubscribing to the things if I don't have time to read them, if I don't. So it's hard. It's hard to get people's attention. And then of course, part of the way that you build your list and the way that you keep people on your list is that you then have to send them stuff, and it has to be stuff that's valuable. I mean, you know, you have to have that combination of it's valuable for its own sake, and it's got some kind of call to action in it where you're, you know, actually getting people to do things for you. And, you know, as with other types of content marketing, well, that means you have to put some work into it. You know, even if the list, you know, usually is just sending out your blog posts, it means you have to write the blog posts.
My insights into it is it's very similar to websites. What people tend not to consider is the amount of work. If you really want to get a result, and Chris Lemmer was talking about this, you know, he said that a lot of people, and I saw where he was coming. I wouldn't say I agreed 100%, but I could definitely see where he was coming from. He said people tend to concentrate on shiny stuff, and they don't concentrate is the main reason why somebody's going to a website is information. And you've got to get your content, and in a crowded internet in 2016, you better have some really good content. And then you keep hammering away and building up and up, and then, you know, you work on the look, the design. When you got to a stage where you're getting enough traffic because you got enough content that's aimed. And the same thing is with email marketing. You know, it takes a lot of work to write a really good email every month, and you've got to be consistent, and then you've got to try and get it in front of the people that would be interested in that content. So that means managing your list, working out how you're going to get people on that list. There's a lot of things going. Would you agree with that, John?
Yeah, content marketing is a grind. It's definitely, there's a lot of people that just think that, hey, I will write like 4 blog posts and we'll be done for the year. And all the people will like come rolling in. Look, I'm blogging. But, and most of those people just like give up, you know, just right away. But I can tell you this, I've done it not only with the site that I have now, but I've done it with other sites as well. And I've seen people do it with their own sites. When you write consistently about the same subject over and over, and you make a schedule, even if you're like writing like once a week, Google will reward you because they'll say like, hey, this person knows all about this subject. And people will, you know, come and, you know, not every one of those articles that you write is going to like bring people, but 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 of them are going to get you some traffic. But you don't know which ones they are until you go out and write them. Or
yeah, well, I also feel, you know, you got to, and I'm as guilty as this, but I'm getting better, is that you've got to do some research using a tool like SEO Rush. There's some others. You've got to see what articles are really popular. You've got to look at them. And then you got to just, you know, write something, develop something that's better. Is it? You got to look at, you know, which area you're trying to build a following on. You know, is it a big enough niche area? Can you compete with the established articles? You just basically, folks, got to think about it a little bit more and plan it. We all have a tendency, because we're busy, just to kind of knock stuff up. And where really a little bit more planning really pays dividends. So I want to move on to another area. It's Facebook. You know, I'm increasingly with Google. I noticed a tendency that organic results, especially in very competitive areas, organic seems to be being pushed further and further down the home page, to the extent where some really competitive searches, you might have only 2 to 3 really organic, where the rest is taken up with images, videos, all sorts of stuff. So I'm a great fan of Facebook and Facebook paid advertisement. What do you think of that, Sally? Do you think Facebook is something that should be looked at?
I think it may depend a little bit on your business. Facebook does have extremely targeted information about people, and that's one of the advantages to Facebook advertising, so that that could make Facebook a good place to look. LinkedIn might be a good place to look, depending on who your market is. So it's where you advertise is going to depend a lot on that. And the fact that you see a lot of image results and a lot of video results in Google searches suggests, it might be useful to produce some images and some videos and try optimizing them, because yes, video is really flavor of the month. Even though it has a lot of drawbacks. I mean, I saw some silly article about, basically text is going to disappear and everything will happen by video. And like, are you joking? That would be so inconvenient. It's like, you don't have to put makeup on to send a text message.
Well, I don't have that problem. So. Sorry. It's very, video is completely linear. You have to be able to look at it. You can't be doing something else. So, there are lots of disadvantages to those things, but, they are popular. People are watching a lot of video. And so, you have to take those things into consideration. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with buying ads. I think you need to make sure that you pay attention to what your budget is, and to what kind of if you have to look at your analytics and see what's working for your blog, you have to check that out 2 and 3 times for any kind of paid advertising, because if it is not bringing in more than you're spending on it, you should stop. Yeah, well, it's all about focus and target. Kim, so like I say, I think Facebook, because of the analytical data it provides, but you got to do some A to B testing. You got to have decent landing pages, all the normal stuff that is similar to Google paid advertisement. But I do see Facebook and live video, YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. You got Facebook Live now. I've been experimenting. So how do you see the kind of, it seems to be in 2016, the kind of big wagon live video, doesn't it, on Facebook, Twitter, and other platforms, Periscope on Twitter. How do you see that affecting marketing in 2016?
Well, I mean, you can't deny it's here. It's not just going to be. It's already here. I so agree with Sallie. Text is not going away, and it can't go away. Even if you're doing video, if you're teaching something, you still need the text to back it up, because you just do. But we have to say that it is something that's really popular, very powerful. It's growing. Google gives, like you said, they're looking for it. They are giving precedence to this. Facebook is loving it. So I definitely think the online video is just going to keep growing. I don't see it going away. I think what will happen, though, is as it continues to develop, people are it's going to become more savvy as to, what people don't realize is when you get found on Google for a video, it's still based on the text in the transcript behind that video that people found the words. Google's not right now reading the video. It's actually looking at this transcription behind. So I think that as it grows, people are going to become smarter about not just taking the Google transcription, that if you've ever looked at what Google has to say as it copied what you just said, I looked at one of my videos, and what Google said, I said, had a whole bunch of words my mother would have washed my mouth out for, and I did not say those in the video. So if you really want a video to rank, get a real transcription, make sure the words are in there that you want, put them behind the scenes. And I think you're just going to see people getting savvier about that to really make the online video marketing work for them when it comes to the search engines. As for the other, as far as like the paid ads, I just have 2 things to say. One's paid and one's not. I'm just doing my first Facebook and Twitter paid campaign. So when I'm done, I will come back with what worked and what didn't. Something that has been interesting for me lately is I built a Twitter card to capture email addresses, and I pinned it. And that is actually helping me build my email address because my email list. There are now ways if you use Twitter cards and you don't have to pay for them even though it's in the advertising area, where you can actually create a Twitter card and gather emails right from that Twitter card without them actually ever having to leave Twitter. They just
That's
click on it.
fascinating.
I'm gonna steal that.
I heard more about that.
That's a
I will
great
share
idea.
it with you. You can have it. You don't have to steal it. And if you go to the pinned tweet on my Twitter, you'll see it. It's offering a class. You click on it. It says, I'm going to share your Twitter email address with her. Click OK, and you get it. It's that easy to then start building that email address, email list we were talking about before.
Well, that's a great tip. Thanks for that, Kim.
You're welcome.
So, John, like I say, live video seems to be like Facebook Live. I've done some experiments with it recently. And then you got Periscope. Then you got YouTube.
Snapchat.
Yeah, Snapchat. I not been on there. I just cannot do that. Have you tried that at all, John?
Yeah, I have a Snapchat. Just follow me. It's Lockdown Design. Definitely. Here's the thing. Snapchat has survived for about 3 years now. Facebook offered them $3 billion to buy their company a while back, and they said, no, we'll pass. And at the time, I thought that was crazy. But now I realize that was the right call. Because I will, if you look at like how social networks go, Facebook I thought was going to die, but it's going to be here forever. But I really truly believe this. I believe that Snapchat is going to be the next big thing, and I think everyone that's here right now, within 3 years' time, they will all be on Snapchat because that is where everybody is going to be. I really truly feel that I love Twitter to death, but I don't think it's going to be the same in 3 years. I really get the feeling like from it now that it's kind of like MySpace was when it started like sinking. And you see what's happening like with Twitter behind the scenes with them changing the product like, every few months to try and like generate revenue. You've got like the CEO, he's running this and Stripe at the same time. The investors that put the money into Twitter, they want to see their money coming back. And I think that the product is going to change because of that. And I think a lot of people are going to end up flocking to Snapchat because the same people who are like here are going to have to go somewhere. You remember like a long time ago, there was like app.net. Like people were saying like, we're going to make a social network that's an alternative. And nobody ended up doing it. Same thing with Ello, like last year. Everybody thought that was going to be the alternative. But I really, truly feel that Snapchat is going to be it. There's more video consumed on Snapchat right now than there is on anywhere except for Facebook and YouTube. If I was going to say like video in 3 places, I would say YouTube, Facebook, and Snapchat. Those 3. Instagram, Instagram number 4.
Well, I'm setting up my Snapchat channel this afternoon, folks.
I just added you, John.
Nice, thank you, Kim.
What do you think, Sally?
I'm resisting Snapchat at the moment, but I tend to agree with John's outlook on Twitter. Twitter doesn't seem to know where it's going, so it may not have a future. And I don't spend as much time on Twitter as I did, but that's partly because I spend a little more time hanging out in certain Slack channels, and everybody has nobody has an infinite amount of time to spend on social media, so you kind of end up finding where it is that you personally belong. But in terms of marketing, you're kind of looking at where are not just most people hanging out, but where are people who are your best customers hanging out. And that may not, that may be a small network versus a large network, just as, I've heard people say, yeah, you get a lot better results from, interviews in trade publications, but the place that everybody wants the coverage is, the New York Times, even if it isn't really bringing them very much traffic or business.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Twitter, this week in startups with Jason, he had one of his round tables. He had a really good discussion. He's he has one of the biggest followings on Twitter, and for a month he stopped using it, and then he went back to it. But he was making there are things. I think there are things that could clearly turn Twitter around. Obviously, they have been trying out a lot of stuff. Like what John said, their fundamental thing is that their investors want to return now. The clock's really ticking down, and this is why you're getting a lot of this activity. But I think one of the things that Jason said in this week in startup, one of the things is verification. They offer it to only a certain number of people. But one of the things that he said he found increasingly a problem on Twitter is the trolls, especially the French ones. He said trolling. They've been cased. I'm not going to go down that route, but he pointed out the trolling problem, the quality problem. Verification might be a way of assisting that. There's a lot of dummy accounts. We all know, Facebook really hammered it and cleaned it up to a certain degree, but a lot of those Twitter accounts are dummy accounts. But there's all sorts of things they could do, I feel. I think the biggest problem with Twitter is engagement. It's a big word in the social media crowd. I call it the social media examiner crowd. Is engagement, but I'm not against them, which they're doing, expanding 140 characters. I always thought that was a little bit, done for technical reasons. I didn't quite follow that concrete limitation. So I think another interesting thing to finish off, I know, is, Microsoft buying LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is in a similar situation to Twitter, and they bought Morton. Hopefully, will be joining us next week.
Linda. They bought lynda.com. They didn't buy Morton specifically.
They bought it to get Morton.
That's why they bought it.
It's all to get Morton.
That's why they bought it. That's why they bought it. Yeah. They've been trying all sorts of stuff, haven't they, Sally? LinkedIn, all sorts of, just like Twitter, because, they want to get more people to spend more time on LinkedIn, because a lot of people, the reason they go on there is when they're looking for a job or something.
It remains, however, the place that people go to look for jobs and the place that people go to look for employees. I get calls from LinkedIn recruiters pretty frequently, and I haven't been very active on LinkedIn or done a lot with my profile recently or any of those things. So, it's still the place where if you're picking, if you're looking for a job and you want to pick one social network, LinkedIn is going to be the one to pick.
Well, we've had a fascinating. We have maybe in a month's time have to go back to this subject. Time's really gone fast, folks. I think we've only really touched the subject, really, probably because of me gassing too much. But there we go. So I'm going to go back to my panel. So, Sally, how can people get hold of you to learn more words of wisdom from you?
Sure, you can find me at WPFangirl.com. On Twitter, I am at Sallie Goetsch, same as I am here on Blab. And since I am unique in Google, if you can spell my name, you can find me.
True. Well, you are unique, Sally. Kim, how can people get hold of you?
If you want to learn to build online courses, you can find me at howtobuildanonlinecourse.com. For general WordPress, you can find me at whiteglovewebtraining.com. And on the blabs and the Twitter, I am at Kim Shivler.
Can we have the claw again?
You can have the claw. We want the nice claw or the bag claw.
Yeah, can I have the clam? Do it again.
Because if you're the nice Jonathan, if you're the bad Jonathan, you're going to get that.
Oh, I'm used to that. I've always been bad. John, how can you... this is a childish element to me, folks. I can't help it. John, how do people get hold of you? Well, where's your claw, John? Forget about this Snapchat. You need a claw.
People can find me at lockdowndesign.com, and I'm on the Twitter as lockdown_.
Right. And if you want to get hold of me, folks, I might be the only person on Twitter. So, Jonathan, I wonder where they're on Snapchat. It's obvious they're on Snapchat. Look at Jonathan Denwood. Is it like Sally? There's not many Jonathan Denwoods around. And also email me at jonathan@WP-Tonic.com, and I do respond to every email that's personally sent to me, even the rude ones that are sent to me. And it's been a great show, and we'll see you. Come and join us for the live show on. It starts at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Blab. We love people popping in, asking questions, and in the second hour, we got any problems with WordPress, and we do also some web reviews. You want some advice, you can join us for the second hour, and we'll help you out, and it's totally free. So we'll see you next week, folks. Bye. Say goodbye, Pam.
Bye.
Peace out.
No claw.
Bye.